Hey everyone, it's Mary Parks with Take Action Properties, and I have a special guest here for Autism Awareness Month. This is Warren Mudd, and he is a renowned author of Autism and Vitamin D. This is Emily's story, correct?
Correct.
Correct. So, as you know, here at Take Action Properties, helping us who we are and how we serve, we want to get this word out about vitamin D levels, what's happening with autism in this, and I'm going to open this up to Warren to kind of explain a little bit about his book and why he brought this up.
Sure. I became interested in vitamin D decades ago through I camp in my RV, and we were camped for a long time next to a guy who was he regarded himself as the vitamin D authority in the world. He had a huge wiki database of vitamin D articles and research, and pretty much everything that had the word vitamin D in it, he had in his library. But he wasn't a very articulate guy, and he had a huge desire to write a book. He wanted to try to figure out how to get all this information into people's hands. So, of course, roasting marshmallows and drinking beers over fires and all that stuff at night, we came to the conclusion that his wife convinced him, you're not an author, and really the way to do this is in tiny little bites. And so this book that I wrote, which is a fairly short story, came out of all of the research studies in his database. And I was trying to explain to him how to write short, small stories that people would actually read. So if people can read something in 15, 20, 25 minutes that's on a topic that they're interested in, they might just pick it up and read it. And if they pick it up and read it, then you've accomplished part of the goal. You've gotten a little bit of the information into the right hands, you've encouraged somebody, you've maybe even changed somebody's life. So this book had to weed through. Dr. John Cannell in San Jose has a clinic, and he also has an industry group on autism, and specifically in the medical aspects of autism. So I combed through his clinical studies and picked this one out because I thought, it's got enough human interest to it that it's a clever story, and it might be something that mothers in this situation, or even fathers or grandparents or anybody, particularly people with one or more autistic children in the family, multiple autisms in one family tends to be environmental more than genetic. There's a lot of stuff swirling around autism and what causes it and can it be cured and what's good and what's bad, and there's many degrees of autism. But this study had a flavor of things. In the book, it's a story of a woman who had 3 autistic children. Her daughters are twins, 8 years old, and her young son, 6 years old, were all diagnosed autistic. Different grades, different variations. One twin daughter was mildly autistic, the other severely autistic. The young son was diagnosed moderately autistic, but also ADHD, so lots of stuff swirling around about this. And so Dr. Cannell put them on a therapy, real high doses of vitamin D, because they all tested, their blood levels tested extremely low in vitamin D. These were not kids that went out. They had very unique, strange diets. They wouldn't eat certain foods. They didn't drink milk. Things that they were eating didn't have vitamin D in them. They had no opportunities to acquire vitamin D. So she was desperate, and he tested them, and they tested so low they almost didn't have vitamin D in their bloodstream. So he gave her a therapy, a session that she could follow, initial dosages and the way to administer it, and he provided all the medications. And she followed this, and it was very interesting, the results that she got in a relatively short period of time. In a month or 2, she noticed pretty astonishing improvements in her child's lives, which I thought made the story compelling. So it is very amazing, and it's not a unique story. It's simply the one of the many that I read that sounded plausible for me to write into a book that people would identify with. They would read it and they could identify with the people in the story. They could give them some hope. All of the reviews on it say the same thing. This story gives somebody hope. It's only one story, but it's representative of a lot of things.
That's awesome. Interesting. So I have a nephew that has autism. So I actually just talked to my sister a couple of days ago to have my niece have him tested just to see where his vitamin D levels are, just to rule it out. You know, I'm not saying everybody's got this issue, but we are saying that there may be some help with proper vitamin D levels. So you also, can you tell people how they can get this book if they want to read this?
So it's on Amazon. It's Kindle only. We didn't have the money to publish a hard book, but Kindle publishing's fairly cheap, and you can also distribute it very, very widely thanks to Amazon. It's $1.50. We picked the price point primarily because we listed it initially at 99 cents, just wanting to get the story out. I was trying to prove to my friend that, you know, he could sell books without lifting a finger. We didn't sell a single book. At 99 cents, nobody even looked at it. It had like 2 views in 3 months. So I started asking other authors, particularly just Kindle authors, what's the right pricing level? Should I price it at 49 cents? Should I price it at a penny? What should I do? They all said, no, your price is too low. At 99 cents, nobody perceives any value in the information. Try jacking it up to $1.50. And so we priced it at $1.49, and within a couple of days, sold 25 copies. So it's like, yeah, the perceived value and the actual value, and it's just one of those things. So a few of them suggested I might price it at $3, and at $3, I would actually make a couple dollars a book. It sounded good to me. I could use a couple dollars a book, even though it wasn't my intention. We put it at $3 or $2.99 a book and sold nothing for 3 months. So it went back to $1.49. I think I made 61 cents a book at $1.49. But it sells all over the world. It sells in Brazil, it sells in the Philippines, it sells in Thailand, it sells in Finland. I'm amazed. I get the invoices in the month. Where am I selling my book? Not very many in the United States, even though it's printed in English, is translated into other languages. But I don't know.
Hopefully we'll get the word out, and you'll get some.
I feel good about getting the word out. That's the whole intention, is that it gives people a starting point.
Yeah, it's a very cute, interesting story. You also have another book that is not published yet.
I do. It is not published. I don't know if we'll ever publish it. I have distributed copies via PDF, but there were so many questions about vitamin D. So there's a tremendous amount of information, but there's also a lot of misinformation about vitamin D. My book, Vitamin D Miracle Cure, is simply something that will tell people specifically about vitamin D, starting with the fact that it's not a vitamin, it is a hormone. I got misnamed vitamin D a long time ago, when there was a lot of controversy in the 60s and 70s about vitamin D with people. Somehow the story got started that vitamin D in more than just a small dosage was toxic.
Wow.
Because it's fat soluble. And at the time, fat soluble things were perceived like chocolate used to be, or a little alcohol is good for you, but a lot of alcohol is not. Well, vitamin D was considered to be, you can take a little, but don't take more than the government tells you to take, or you can poison yourself, which is patently untrue. High dosage vitamin D therapy is pretty common before surgery now. I've had it twice. I've had 2 surgeries, and I've had high dosage vitamin D therapy before both surgeries, because it simply enables you to heal. But vitamin D is a critical, absolutely critical to life. Your body cannot function without vitamin D in its system, because it enables the function of so many other things. Your body cannot absorb calcium without vitamin D in the bloodstream. This is why, particularly with autism, why it was it's such a deficit in your system that it shuts so many things down, including can lead to organ failure, not having enough vitamin D. So that was the brunt of the other book, was just to explain what is vitamin D, and where do you see it, where can you find it, what kind of dosages have been studied, and things of that nature. It's more like an encyclopedia than a human interest story, which the other book is.
Well, that's great. If you are interested in that and want more information about it, feel free to private message us.
Contact Mary.
We'll get you the information.
We can get you a PDF.
But we just wanted today to take a few minutes of our day to let you know how important it is to have have vitamin D in your system.
Yeah, or at least get tested.
Get tested.
If you have an annual physical, every year, I used to have to ask, and they used to charge me an extra fee for getting vitamin D tested, but I'm now finding that it's included. You just have to ask. It's included in the blood test. We'll be happy to tell you. We recently moved to Florida a year ago, and we are avid vitamin D supplementers. We take vitamin supplements every day. But we moved from Seattle and we moved to Florida, and I find that I'm spending so much more time outside that my doctor said, you can shut down the supplementation. You're getting outside so much, you probably don't need any supplementation. So we've cut that way back, and I'm still testing at the top of what they consider to be a nice, good level of vitamin D. I'm 72 years old. I think maybe it's helped me a little bit.
That's great. I actually just had mine tested, and I'm inside a lot, so mine was low. So I am supplementing, and I'm taking, I think it's K12 to bind it. So, but yeah, interesting stuff. I want to thank you very much, Mr. Mudd, for coming in today. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out and private message us. Have an amazing day.
Thank you.
Bye.